the man who was rejected by all until his secret was revealed in African folktale. In a faraway village nestled at the foot of a majestic mountain, bordered by deep forests and lush fields, there lived a man named Kofi. The village was a place where life thrived under the warmth of the sun, and its people lived in harmony with the land. Their lives revolved around farming, hunting, and gathering, and the villagers were proud of their close-knit community. Yet, amidst the joyful camaraderie and bustling daily routines, there was one person who never seemed to belong to Kofi. Kofi was born into a humble family. His parents, though hardworking and loving, were simple folk who lived on the outskirts of the village. They were not wealthy, and their hut was small and modest. From the time Kofi was a child, he displayed an unusual quietness. While other children his age played games, laughing and shouting in the village square, Kofi often withdrew to the edges of the group, observing the world in silence. His mother, Nia, often told him, "The world is loud, Kofi, but your heart speaks in whispers. Listen carefully, for your heart holds the wisdom of the earth." Despite his mother's gentle words, Kofi's difference made him a target for mockery. The other children made fun of his reserved nature, his slow gait, and the way he always seemed to look toward the sky as if searching for something no one else could see. They called him strange, a loner, and some even said he was cursed. But Kofi, wise beyond his years, did not let their taunts bother him. He found comfort in the quiet of nature, in the rustling of the leaves and the songs of the birds, which seemed to understand him more than the people of the village ever could. As Kofi grew older, the teasing continued. When he attempted to join in the village's festivities, the others would laugh at his awkwardness, at the way he never seemed to fit in. While others danced and celebrated, Kofi often found himself standing on the periphery, watching from the shadows. The elders would occasionally offer him kind words, reminding him to keep his head high, but even they could not make him feel less like an outsider. Kofi's heart remained pure, and he carried with him a deep sense of understanding. Yet he was constantly reminded of his difference. The villagers rejected him, not out of malice, but because of their inability to understand him. His quiet, contemplative nature was misunderstood, and as the years passed, he became more and more isolated. The whispers about him spread, and Kofi became known as the Silent One, the man who preferred solitude to companionship. When Kofi reached adulthood, he found work as a farmer, though his land was not as fertile as that of his neighbors. His crops, though diligently cared for, never seemed to yield as much as the others. But Kofi did not complain. Each day, he rose before the sun, tending to his small patch of earth with love and devotion. He would work the land with patience, often singing soft songs to the soil as he worked. He believed that the earth, like the heart, needed care and attention in order to flourish. Despite his dedication, the villagers turned a blind eye to Kofi's efforts. Whenever they passed by his farm, they would shake their heads, muttering about his misfortune. They would compare his struggling crops to their own thriving fields and offer little more than scorn for his lack of success. "What is the use of working so hard when the land does not reward you?" they would say. Yet, Kofi never lost faith. He continued to care for the earth with unwavering devotion, knowing that one day his patience would bear fruit. He spent his nights under the stars, looking up at the sky and talking to the wind. His dreams were simple. He longed for a life of peace, a life where he could finally be understood. One fateful year, a terrible drought struck the land. The skies that had once been filled with life-giving rain were now barren, and the river that flowed through the village ran dry. The crops began to wither, the once lush fields turning brown and barren. The villagers, once full of pride, now stood in despair. The famine soon followed, and people began to go hungry. The village, which had once been vibrant and thriving, was now on the brink of ruin. The elders gathered in the village square, calling for a council. They were filled with worry and fear, unsure of how to solve the crisis. The river, which had always been a source of life for the village, was gone, and with it, their hope. The villagers cried out in desperation, seeking a solution that no one seemed to have. For days, they discussed and debated, but nothing came of their efforts. The situation grew direr. Kofi, observing from the edges of the gathering, knew what needed to be done. He had spent years in silence, tending to his farm and learning the ways of the land. He understood that the earth could be restored, that the water could return, but the villagers would have to be patient. His plan, however, was a secret he had kept hidden, for he knew that it would sound impossible to those who had rejected him. For many weeks, Kofi took it upon himself to act, though he did so in secret. Each morning before dawn, he would carry his bucket to the village well, filling it to the brim. With the heavy load, he would walk through the forest, past the familiar paths the villagers knew, and into the heart of the woods, where the ancient trees grew. It was there that he had discovered a secret, a place so sacred that it had been hidden for generations. Deep in the forest, an enormous tree, its bark worn and gnarled by time. It was said to be the oldest tree in the land, a tree that held the wisdom of the ages. Kofi had discovered it when he was just a child, wandering the woods on one of his solitary walks. He had felt an unspoken connection to the tree, as though it called to him. Over the years, he had learned that this tree held a secret deep beneath its roots, was a spring of water that had never run dry. But the tree was not ordinary. It did not give its water freely. Kofi had learned that the tree required care, dedication, and love in order to reveal its secret. He spent years tending to the tree, watering it, speaking to it, and listening to its whispers in the wind. He believed that one day, when the village needed it most, the tree would reveal its water and save them all. Each day, Kofi would bring water to the tree, pouring it carefully into the soil around its roots. He never told anyone about his actions, knowing that they would mock him, as they had done before. But he did not care. He believed in the power of patience, and he trusted that the tree would respond in its own time. The secret revealed. The drought worsened. The villagers' desperation grew, and the elders convened once again, trying to find a solution. It was then that Kofi, who had kept his silence for so long, stepped forward. "I know where the water is," he said softly. The villagers looked at him, their faces filled with disbelief. Kofi, the silent one, the man who had been rejected by them for so long, was speaking of water. How could he, who had never shared his thoughts or ideas, possibly know where to find water? "I know where the water is," Kofi repeated, his voice steady. "Follow me." Though the villagers were reluctant, they had nothing else to lose. They followed Kofi into the forest, unsure of what they would find. As they walked deeper into the woods, the air grew cooler, and the scent of the earth filled their lungs. After a long journey, they arrived at the ancient tree, its twisted branches reaching high into the sky. The villagers gasped in astonishment. At the base of the tree was a clear pool of water, shimmering in the sunlight. It was as if the earth itself had opened its veins to provide for them. The water was cool and refreshing, and the villagers drank deeply, their parched throats finally receiving relief. As they drank, Kofi spoke, revealing the secret he had kept for so long. "This tree has given us its water," he said. "But it is not the tree alone. It is the work of patience, care, and dedication. For years, I have brought water to this tree, nurturing it and giving it life. It has never been about the water alone. It has always been about believing in something greater than ourselves. The villagers stood in awe, their eyes filled with shame and admiration. They had rejected Kofi, the very man who had saved them all. The realization hit them hard. Kofi had never been the outsider they thought him to be. His quiet nature had concealed a heart full of love and wisdom. He had worked tirelessly, without seeking recognition, because he believed in something far greater than himself. From that day forward, the villagers changed. They no longer judged people by their appearance or their differences. They learned to see the value in silence, in patience, and in hard work. They understood that sometimes the greatest gifts come from the most unexpected places. Kofi, once the village outcast, became a beloved figure. He continued to live his life in quiet devotion, never seeking fame or praise. But the villagers knew now what they had failed to see before. Kofi was a man of deep wisdom, and his actions had saved them all. The story of Kofi and the ancient tree became a legend, passed down through generations. It reminded the people of the village, and beyond that, greatness is not always loud or obvious. Sometimes it is hidden in silence, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. The morale of Kofi's story is simple but profound. Patience, kindness, and dedication can turn the most challenging of circumstances into opportunities for growth. No matter how the world may judge you or how isolated you may feel, remember that your worth is not defined by others. If you remain true to your purpose and persevere through hardship, your value will one day be revealed. The greatest gifts are often hidden in silence, waiting for the right time to emerge. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the unknown. If you enjoyed this tale, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon to stay updated on our latest videos. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.